Hello, 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 and welcome back to another round of the virtual Bushy Park Clubman series, here hosted by Carib Sim Motorsport. We're here for round 4 at, of course, Bushy Park, as always, and this time we are in the Formula 3 cars. First open wheel cars we have on the series so far. Those of you would remember, we started off with the Radicals. Round 2, as actually, I've had a complete brain fart. Round 2 started off with, then went to the R5 Ford Fiestas, and round 3 was the Suzuki Swift Cup cars, and doing fun little things. But this time we're in the big boys. We're back to the big boy stuff. Powerful, no nonsense machines, no ABS, no traction control on these cars, and with a great hybrid V6. Sorry, not hybrid V6 in the back, just a V6 in the back. These provide a lot of torque, a lot of grunt for such slight cars. Have full active DRS on them as well, so that will be available throughout the whole of the track. There's no DRS zones around Bushy Park, but it is available to use wherever they like. It will be tactical, of course, but I suspect some of the drivers will be trying to make most of it as much as possible. Any advantage to be had from a racing driver, you know them. They're always going to use it. So, with these cars, as I mentioned before, no ABS, no traction control, so keeping your tyres somewhat operable is going to be the name of the game. Flat spots, graining, all a thing. Of course, the races are not horrendously long, and these are only 15-minute sprint races in this championship, so there's going to be no changing of tyres, no need for looking after your tyres, but with no assists, they might get a bit hot, they might burn up a little bit. Tyre wear is still on, so it's going to be important for the drivers not to go too hard on them too soon and end up locking up every turn. And before you know it, you've got a hideous wheel wobble, and well, from then on, it's about survival to the end of the race. So, 10 drivers on track currently, and we're just going to jump on board with Barry Hill to just to look us through the lap, just to introduce ourselves to Bushy Park. It's been a while. We had a month off here at Caribson Motorsport, just while we were busy arranging some other championships in the rally variety. We can talk about that later. We'll just ride on board Barry Hill for a lap or two, just to get accustomed to the track. They've done a very good job of modding this into Assetto Corsa. Of course, not a world-renowned international layout track, but important nonetheless in the history of Barbados and the motorsport scene in the Caribbean. So as Barry comes round what is the final corner onto where the start line is around this track, small kink to the left, followed by quite hard on the brakes for turn 2, second gear corner, accelerating out into third, but then not long before you're back on the brakes for a tricky chicane. If you take too much speed in on the first half, you're going to understeer onto the grass and find it really difficult to hook it up coming on to the back straight. And then hard on the brakes again, a second gear corner. You don't want to end up going too wide again, because you're going to mess up your speed coming down for the longest straight on the track. Hard on the anchors, nice long open hairpin here. You really got to squeeze on the power quite easily. It's quite a long corner. If you do it too soon, you're going to understeer or just potentially spin. And then, of course, that's not going to end well for anyone. Another large chicane coming down into very tight right-hander. Got to squeeze on the power as quickly as possible into a nice lazy right to bring you back on to the start-finish straight. That's a lap. And then back around we go again during the chicane. Now, I have just been informed that there are multiple layouts to Bushy Park, but the pit lane start line is being used today as compared to the other start line which we have used previously in the series. So where the pit lane is, you can see on the left-hand side of Barry Hill. That is the start line we will be using. So the true turn numbers as compared to last time when you may have joined us and we're using the other layout, but not to worry. The track is still the same. It's just they start in a different place. Now then, I'll have a quick look through the current standings of the series, because we had 3 rounds so far. At the top, you will find a Mr. Dominic Child, who is with us today. He is sitting pretty on 125 points, with a reasonable gap to Damien Hall, some 14 points back, sitting on 111. And a jump again down to third place Barry Hill with 74. And from then on down, it gets a lot closer. So the top 2 have built quite a gap from the rest of the field. As you can see, Rob Simmons was 69, tied with Oisin Wilson. But then again, only 7 points back. Sorry, 6 points. Yeah, 7 points back to Ryan Hunt. So the fight for third place, well and truly on within the championship. And after today, we're probably going to see quite a few more turns around in the standings. Further down, Jamal Badou, Orlando Morris tied on 29 points. And then 28, 27, 27, 25, 22 points down to 16th. And then rounding out the bottom group, Graham Finlayson, Khalil Badou, Christian Rajnauth. Drivers who have only joined us for the 1 round so far, because this is an open series. The drivers can compete as and when they wish. But judging by the standings, a favourite going into today is Dominic Charles. Currently, in practice, sitting in second place is Dominic. Currently only surpassed by Damien Hall, his championship rival. So if we're trying to set up a good round for the championship, we're going the right way about it, I tell you that now. Only 4/10 between the two drivers at the top. But then Barry Hill as well, only 3/10 further adrift to round out the top three in practice so far. So the top three providing a good competitive outlook so far. And then looking down further down, you already got Oisin Wilson and Paul Rees, lovingly known as Rees Racing. Imaginative, but just for you to know, Rees Racing, Paul Rees, and then Starsky and Clutch, a good strong name that. It's a new entry into the championship, Mr. Chris Wiggins. So we're interested to see how Chris gets on, the new challenger for the regulars amongst the championship. So keep an eye on Mr. Wiggins there, currently sitting down in 8th place. But then it's still very close, only 4/10 off 4th. So the mid pack proving to be as competitive as ever in this championship. If you've watched the previous rounds, it's fair to say elbows get used thoroughly in this championship. There is no holds barred for a risky lunge down the inside. Of course, with these open wheel Formula 3s, perhaps caution is perhaps better used this time round. We'll put it that way. I still expect to see some daring moves, and good racing all round, but perhaps just to decide more on caution than what we're currently used to. As a couple more drivers start to fill in, we've got Javon Codrington, 11th, Ryan Hunt in 12th. He's a man who's not scared to throw it down the inside. Watch out for him. Yeah, I won't be surprised if I'll be screaming his name a bit later on as we try and work out where he's going to finish in the order. So 10 seconds left of practice. It's just a chance for drivers just to dial the last bit of their setups in. And it is an open session through qualifying, so if any drivers do feel free to join us for the race, they will do. And it is a 10-minute qualifying session, followed by 2 sprint races. So the first one, of course, set by qualifying, 15 minutes, light to flag, see how we get on. And then after that, there is a second sprint race, which is reverse grid. Now, this is where things get fruity. Chance for the drivers who perhaps had a few issues in race 1, or perhaps just slightly off the pace, start at the front and just build a gap as the fast drivers start to come through the pack, get in all sorts of battles and fights, and the drivers at the front just get the opportunity to scamper away. We've seen in previous rounds where it has come down to the final lap of the quick drivers coming through the grid and just keeping, but they bring the whole grid with them. It's not like they come through and tear off. They bring everyone with them. It's very competitive field here, as shown by the time so far in practice. So, with that, going to transition through to qualifying, and we'll see who the first is to head out. Nice short lap here, 52nd lap set by Damien Hall so far in practice, so we'll be able to see quite a fair few over the next 10 minutes. So just as we wait for Assetto Corsa to get through the setting up stage of qualifying, we will then progress. Now, those of you that frequent this channel and these streams should hopefully know who I am. I'm Chris Reardon. I'm your commentator. I have been for about a year or so now. Most of likely to have heard me on the ACC championship did last year, and also on Red 265 Motorsport. This is jointly run thanks to Robert Simmons, the proprietor to Red 265 Motorsport, home of Caribbean rallying, and maybe in the future worldwide rallying. Who knows? Hint, hint. But yes, that's who I am. You'll be blessed with my dulcet tones as we make our way through the evening. Of course, 8 p.m. In Barbados if you're tuning in from around the world. It's currently 1 p.m. in the UK, I can tell you that. 1 p.m. I wish it was 1 p.m. No, 1 a.m. But it is a worldwide series, this. Of course, being at home at Bushy Park, you have a large Bajan contingent. But also a couple of drives from around the Caribbean as well, and a couple gracing us from the UK. But yes, this is a worldwide championship. There's no holds barred, so all abilities welcomed. There are no entry requirements. There's no real qualification. If the only qualification is that if you turn up, you're in. And of course, don't try and jeopardise anyone else. But we haven't had that. This is a good community. So if you are interested at all in anything we have to offer, whether it be rallying, R Factor 2, Assetto Corsa Competizione, or Assetto Corsa as you're watching now, head on over to our Discord at Caribbean Sim Motorsport, and you can have a look at what we have on offer. We also have a website at CaribbeanSimMotorsport.com, and just have a look. See what its current standings like in our various championships. We have a very, very popular rally championship. We've had some big names compete in the past. Worldwide proper rally legends take part. So you'll be competing, and also some of the highest Dirt Rally 2 players on the planet. So if you want some good competition, and also just a whole good amount of fun, you can make some friends along the way, this is the community for you. So head on over to the Discord. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can keep informed of when we'll be going live with various events. Also, if you like the stream, of course, that helps us out a lot, because some more exposure, good. If you ever join, it also helps grow the championship, so you'll be racing against more people as well. But, with all that said, we're 3 minutes into qualifying, and we have some times on the board. Currently in first place, Mr. Damien Hall, who is continuing his good run from practice. He's not quite managed to get down to the times that he was showing last time in practice, but he's getting there. He is getting there. Only 2/10 off what he set last time. So a good start for Damien. Still 6.5 minutes left, so enough time to improve again, but he's so far not been tested too much by Mr. Childs, who is currently sitting about a 10th behind, just over a 10th behind, followed by Barry Hill in third on a 51.5, so about 4/10 back. So this is sort of similar proceedings to what we were seeing in the practice sessions. A bit of a mix-up in the midfield so far as drivers just bed themselves in, but the top three remaining as it was in the practice. Currently on track, Kadeen Mohammed in fifth. Oh, that is a very close run thing to fourth place. Only 0.08 of a second between him and Oisin Wilson. In fact, we'll just ride on board with Kadeen as he has just gone through turn one. Slight clip of the inside, and he's gone round. This is the commentator's curse manifested. That is what you want to see. I'm very sorry, Kadeen. I'll pretend it wasn't me. So, instead we'll jump to Mr. Rob Simmons, who is about halfway through one of his laps. And we can see if Rob can improve on his 52.118 second lap, currently sitting in 6th place. And we'll ride with Rob and just see what he has to offer. And he's pulled over as well. Is he letting through a faster driver? Yeah, so Rob backed out of his lap and let through a faster driver. But we'll keep going with Rob, see what he has to do. You can perhaps tuck into the toe of the driver in front. Coming down into the first corner, nice wide line. Try and get a late apex if you can. Just a slight miss of the apex. Oh, and there's a spin in front of him. That's going to ruin Rob's lap there. And that was Oisin Wilson that had just had a big off in front of Simmons, compromising his lap right at the get-go. Unfortunate for Rob. Wilson just got on the loud pedal a little bit too much. But Rob, still 4 minutes left of qualifying. As long as he's got as long as he's not got any damage on the front of his Formula 3, should be able to go and do another lap without having to dive back into the pits. Now I'm going to stop watching Rob because I feel like I'm just compromising him a little bit. So what we'll do, we'll jump to Dominic Charles. So he's just coming into turn 2. Now, of course, he's pushing to try and extend his lead out in front. He doesn't seem to be able to match Damien Hall as of yet, as he comes through turns 3 and 4, the chicane. Massive curbs around Bushy Park, you might have seen, so you've got to stay away from these curbs. And with these Formula 3s, they just get launched in the air. As you can imagine, very low ride height, the floor is pretty much sucked to the floor. If you even just take a nibble at these curbs, you are punished. You are thrown about like a ragdoll. So it's all about staying away from the curbs, getting as close as you dare, but just don't touch them. Just don't touch. So, as Dominic comes into turn 1, hint of a lock-up on the inside front. Has a good exit from the corner there, coming down the long straight into turn 3. Nice wide line, nice long hairpin. No lock-up this time. Squeezing on the power. Don't go over too far to the right because you just need to come back to the left and get it chucked in for the chicanes. Small jumps, nibbles at the curb there for Dominic. Going to slow him down. I dare say this lap won't be one that he's going to improve with, but it's good to see in action those curbs of how much they punish the car. Now, coming down the end straight, kink to the left, and then hard on the brakes. Camber on the inside helps well. Then coming into the final chicane, squeezing on the power. Don't want to run onto the grass in these cars, because no traction control. You will just get spun round. Very hard to control as soon as you leave the track, as it is with any car, but of course these slick tyres just make life that little bit more unbearable. So of course Dominic did not improve on that lap, as we were suspecting. And the top 3 remain as they are. No improvements over the top 3 so far, but we have had a few improvements further down the order. Kadeem Mohammed has worked his way up into 4th. Paul Rees in 7th place. And then Ryan Hunt's one of the late joiners, currently sitting in 8th on a 52.889. Bit of an improvement needed from Ryan to get himself up into 7th. It's a massive slap of oversteer. Manages to keep it out of the wall as he returns to the garage. With 1 minute and 30 seconds left, he does have time to try and get out and set another lap. We'll see if he has time to do so. So, let's have a look at Kevin Manning. He's currently just over a tenth behind Ryan, sitting in 9th. And I'm going to just stop talking because I switch to people and they spin. The commentator's curse has always been a thing on this channel. Manifested itself more so today than it has before at any other point. But just looking across the field, there seems to be a reasonable spread of times, but there is always a good battle to be had. From Kevin Manning down to 12th, Mr. Derek Rudder, who has been a good name to have amongst the series, he's always taken part in his championships. And in fact, as I said, Derek Rudder has improved his time. Managed to get up to 53.3, so that brings the spread from 9th to 12th, the bottom 4, down to 4 tenths. So that will be a pretty intense battle for the last 4 positions all the way through the racing guarantee. But looking further up, Ryan Hunt has a bit of a, as I said before, has a big gap to Paul Rees in 7th, about 7 tenths, but then from then on it's close. It's close. 52.1, the 52.1, and then a 51.7, covering 5th through 7th, and then again gets even closer to get to the top. But as I ramble on, qualifying has come to an end. We've had half the grid cross the line and set their final times. Just finished his lap was Damien Hall, who did manage to improve upon himself, got down to a 50.8, so he's managed to match his time that was set in practice. Now just across the line next, Dominic Charles in 2nd, currently on a 51.1. His last chance to see if he can overthrow Damien on pole. As he just comes across the line, we'll find out if it was quicker. It was not. That was a 51.4 set by Dominic. Not quick enough to try and overthrow Mr. Hall, as Kadeen Mohammed, has an off coming onto the back straight. And there are 2 drivers still running. Damien Hall is doing on his in-lap, and Javon Codrington, currently bringing up the rear, has also on his in-lap. So, there is your starting grid for the first sprint race of round 4 of the CSM virtual Bushy Park Clubman series. So, in first place, we have Mr. Damien Hall. Second, Dominic Charles. In third, we have Barry Hill. Fourth is Kadeen Mohammed. 5, Oisin Wilson. In 6th, Rob Simmons. In 7th, Mr. Paul Rees, or Rees Racing, as he is known on AC. 8th, Ryan Hunt. 9th, Kevin John Manning. 10, Starsky and Clutch, otherwise known as Chris Wiggins. I just laugh at Starsky and Clutch, sorry. It's Chris Wiggins. 11 is Derek Rudder, and then bringing up the rear, but only just, is Javon Codrington in 12th place. So, I would say that due to the nature of these cars, I dare say it will be a tentative run down into turn 1. I'm going to say this now, I'm not expecting too many sends, but of course, being a CSM lobby, they're all friends here. I dare say that 1 or 2 will try a few sneaky moves right up the inside. Of course, with the banking, it's difficult to try a move around the outside down at turn 1. But we've seen it be done. If they have such a superior run on entry, it is possible. So, there's a minute to go before the race starts. Just a couple minutes, for the drivers just to change bits of their setup, perhaps to put in a bit more fuel if they had to take fuel out for the qualifying. And while they're doing that, I'll just, of course, prompt you, if you're new to the channel, you're liking what you're hearing and seeing so far, do subscribe, like the stream, and we'll always try and bring you more. As the year goes on, there'll be more championships, more reviews, more videos to bring out, which, if you're at all interested in sim racing, this is the place to be. And join us as well on Discord, and find us on our website as well, so you can sign up to all of our championships and don't miss a thing in the future. And I should mention as well, of course, this series is partnered with Bushy Park itself. We have been lucky enough to receive sponsorship for this event, for this series, from Bushy Park itself. So a big thank you to everyone at Bushy Park for helping us make this possible. Now, the lights are lighting up. We're about to go racing. And it's lights out and away we go. That was a superior start from Dominic Charles. Managed to get the jump on Damien Hall down into turn 1. They just go side by side. Barry Hill and Damien Hall. Damien Hall losing 2 places down at the first corner. All drivers seem to make it through relatively unscathed for the first time through the lap. Dominic Charles still in the lead, followed by Barry Hill, Damien Hall. Kadeen Mohammed is actually managing to try and get in on the act. As we look further down, there seems to be contact between Ryan Hunt and Kevin Manning. There's a huge puff of smoke in the background as we just look at them now coming to the chicane for the first time halfway through the lap. But now coming down into another heavy braking zone, slightly further back. Small hint of a lock-up from Kadeen Mohammed in 4th place. Just trying to keep up with the top 3, because those 3 are going to try and run away as quickly as they can. In fact, Damien Hall trying to hang it round the outside of Barry Hill. Barry Hill has to just nudge him a little bit outside, show him the outside of the track. And he's managed to just pull a 0.2 second gap. But in fact, Damien Hall returning the favour, just has to throw it down the inside. Little hint of oversteer as he tries to get on the power. This does mean Barry Hill has the inside coming into the chicane, but he's managed to just hang it. A little bit of contact there as well. Now coming down into a heavy braking zone. Damien Hall managed to retake the position off Barry Hill. Excellent bits of driving from the 2 of them. Very fair, but decisive nonetheless. Little nudge there from Barry Hill on Kadeen Mohammed, pushing him onto the grass on the exit there. That was a rough move from Barry Hill to try and defend that position. And Kadeem Mohammed probably going to be riled up by that. He's going to want to try and perhaps throw a lunge in as we go on to lap 3. No doing this time for Kadeem Mohammed. As we look slightly further down the order, Oisin Wilson just right under the rear wing of Mr. Rob Simmons. Let's fight the battle for 6th and 5th place. There's a problem. Ooh, a little bit of a slide there from Oisin Wilson. Just getting on the power a little bit early, a little bit much, but manages to keep control. You can see just how lively these Formula 3 cars are. They really are. You need to be so careful on the throttle on these cars, or they will punish you. They seriously will punish you. Looking further down still, Derek Rudder managed to make a couple places out of all of that, got up into 9th place. Started in 11th, did Derek, but done very well. In fact, Dominic Charles has retired to the pit lane. And I'm not entirely sure why. Perhaps it was a disconnect, perhaps he's run into some problems, he's had to retire from the race. But Dominic Charles has retired from the sprint race, from Sprint Race 1, which does mean Damien Hall has inherited the lead with 4 laps gone. Interesting turn of events. We'll try and get some feedback from Dominic, see if we can find out what went on there. But Damien Hall has managed to build a good lead to Barry Hill, about 3 seconds now. As the field starts to spread out a little bit, of course the cars do suffer from little bits of wash, a little bit of aero wash from the effects of the cars, but not so much so that they're going to be causing massive gaps. In fact, the middle of the pack nice and bunched up now. Rob Simmons, Oisin Wilson and Paul Rees all within 2 seconds of each other. I think the mid-pack is going to be where the action's going to be happening during this race. Second down to 6th place, only separated by 3 seconds so far, which is good going. In fact, there's even further back. We're just going to quickly flick to Javon Codrington and Derek Rudder, currently side by side going into the chicane. But Derek on the charge. He's not a man to be messed with. Javon Codrington having a little wiggle in the second half of the chicane. Couple of lockups there from Derek Rudder, not going to do his tyres any good. In fact, he's all going to be all thinking about the exit here. Does he have enough momentum? DRS wide open on Javon Codrington's car. In fact, a little lock-up again from Javon Codrington, running wide. Derek Rudder now going to be thinking, can I get him down into turn 1? If he has a good chicane, he might be able to do it. He's closer still. Just getting that a little bit closer. Within half a second now of Javon Codrington, but a good turn 1 for Codrington. Just managing to hold off from Derek Rudder. Rudder was hoping to capitalise on his early good start, but Codrington, after what looked like a iffy couple of laps, just managing to regain control, some composure, and will try to just pull away, try and catch up with the pack in front, who are still going at it, still fighting. Paul Rees, only 4/10 behind Oisin Wilson. There's a big lock up there from Wilson. Paul just eyeing up what he can do, because those lockups don't seem to have affected Wilson. In fact, he is slightly pulling away and catching up to Rob Simmons. Rob looked like he was neglecting to use his DRS. A little bit wide there from Rob. Just Wilson having to poke his nose up the inside. It's a good job Rob saw it, because I think he had to just back out a little bit there, just going defensive into turn 2. It just shows you how much of a threat Wilson is. He can't focus on Mohammed, he's got to focus behind, which is not a lot of race drivers ever want to do. So now come through the latter half of the lap. Simmons just seems... Oh, a big spin there from Rob Simmons! Just got on the power too much. Manages to keep it out of the wall, keep it out of the bridge, and away he goes. Didn't lose too many positions, but he still has Javon Codrington now right behind him. Oh, that's very unfortunate for Rob. But he's now got to also try and defend from losing more positions. He lost 2 there. This is to prevent a third. The run down into turn 1. See, Codrington's weaving out behind him. He's trying his absolute hardest to try and get past. He can smell blood. Simmons has already made 1 mistake. Can Codrington cause him into another? He's managed to pull away from Rudder. He can focus purely in front of him now. Simmons just taking a slightly narrower line to Codrington. Codrington trying to open up the track as much as possible. as they make their way through the large chicane. But Smap Simmons just recovered his composure slightly. Little bit of a wiggle on exit, but nothing too dramatic compared to last time. And does not repeat what he did a lap before. Codrington just mounting the curb. Whoa, big slide there from Codrington. And that has pretty much scuppered his chances of trying to overtake Rob. In fact, allowing Derek Rudder back on the act. It seemed Codrington hit the curb on the left, and then that threw him into an even bigger curb on the right-hand side, and he just had no control on the brakes, slid off the track. Luckily, it wasn't a huge incident for Codrington, but he's still having to just hinted at a defence from Rudder halfway down the straight, but then thought better of it. He could take the corner as he wished, and I think that caught Rudder off guard. He had the overspeed, locked up, ran a little bit wide, and now Codrington just trying to pull away again from Rudder. If the previous laps are anything to go by, it shouldn't be too dramatic. For Codrington, he should pull away from Rudder, not without too much hassle. But now, looking further up the grid, they seem to just be slightly spaced out. I'm going to ride on board with Oisin Wilson. Currently 1.5 seconds behind Kadeen Mohammed, and 0.6 of a second in front of Paul Rees. So the closest battle on track so far. So I'm going to ride on board with these two for a lap or two, just see how they progress. Commentator's curse, luckily not taking effect too much in this race compared to qualifying. But then that's when you mention it's when it gets bad. So yes, it just seems everyone just seems to have calmed down a little bit. Nothing too dramatic after that spin from Rob Simmons. Perhaps that was just a hint for the rest of the drivers, just to think carefully about your moves. Of course, you've still got the second race to come, so no hideous dive bombs to be made just yet. You've got another 15-minute race ahead of you. In fact, Wilson just has managed to close the gap on Mohammed. He's now brought it to within half a second as he takes a very narrow line down into turn 3. And coming into the chicane, turns 4 and 5. Hints of block-ups from all three of the drivers there through that section. Little bit wide there from Wilson. Didn't manage to get on the power too early there. In fact, if anything, got it. I made a mistake there. If anything, got it too early, understeered wide, and it's just allowed Mohammed to try and escape again. It seems these drivers are stronger on different parts of the lap. Wilson good on the brakes through turns 1 and 2. Cap making ground on Mohammed, but then on the latter half of the lap does seem to struggle. Wilson now has perhaps got to think about Paul Rees down the straight coming into turn 2. But no, not quite. Nothing doing for these drivers just yet. And while I say that, Javon Codrington has managed to catch back up with Rob Simmons slightly further back coming down into turn 2. And has managed to drop Derek Rudder behind. So Rob Simmons spins again! This time coming out of turn 2, manages to keep hold of it just about, but this is turning into a calamitous race for Rob Simmons. Had a good start, had a very good start, getting himself up into what was 6th position, but then just dropping down the order with a couple of spins. Sorry, he actually originally got up into 4th position, but now down in 7th, and Javon Codrington managing to scamper away now to 6th place. Good start from Codrington. Good race this. Nice and calm and collected. So, whoa, what a couple of laps that was. And they're jumping ahead to the leader, Mr. Damien Hall. He's managed to only ever build upon his gap to Barry Hill as Damien Hall makes his way past a few of the back markers. That's the fact they make their way past. Find out who that was. Saw lock up in the background. That was Chris Wiggins. You find yourself at the back of the grid. Of course, this is Chris Wiggins' first event with us here at CSM Virtual Bushy Park Clubman Championship. So, but not putting on a good display nonetheless. This will be found from Mr. Simmons. These cars can be tricky with no traction control, but Wiggins doing a good job keeping the car together. course, he's not currently won't be starting at the back of the grid. That will currently be occupied by Mr. Dominic Charles, who retired earlier in this race. So, with one lap left of this race when Damien Hall crosses the line, which will be any second now, Pruitt comes onto the back straight, starts the final lap. So what's proved into a poor start by Hall's standards, managing to lose 2 positions early on in the first lap. Once Charles retired, he managed to just ever increase his gap to Barry Hill, and since then has not looked back. A very commanding race in the end here from Damien Hall. And I'm very pleased to say that Damien will be joining us for a post-race interview as well, so it'd be good to get his verdict on the start and the rest of the race, as he's now coming into the final section of the lap, making his way through the final chicane. Keep it together, son. Well done. And Damien Hall wins the first sprint race here at round 4 for the virtual Bushy Park Clubman Series. Coming over the line in second place will be Mr. Barry Hill. As he does so, good second place of Barry. Kadeen Mohammed in the end made up quite a bit of ground on Barry Hill, rounding off the podium in third place, followed by Paul Rees and Oisin Wilson coming in 4th and 5th respectively. 6th place will be Javon Codrington. A good end to the race for Javon. He managed to pressure Rob Simmons into a mistake. So not a very good ending for Rob Simmons in the end. Derek Rudder did a very good job to come from 11th into 8th on the grid. And then Kevin Manning, Ryan Hunt and Chris Wiggins all found themselves a lap down in the end, unfortunately. And they crossed the line a little bit earlier. So, a good start to round 4. Some good racing all round. We haven't had any hideous dive bombs. The drivers seem to be taking into account the fragile nature of these cars, which is brilliant to see. So as we just source Damien Hall to get his post-race reaction, the drivers will make their way back to the pit lane, recuperate, have a drink, just gather their thoughts, and then we should then be ready, not long after, for the reverse grid race. Sprint race 2. And with that in mind, we're just going to quickly talk to Damien Hall. Damien, how are you doing? How was a good race? Good start?
Good, thanks.
So, it looked a little bit worrying at the start, because you lost 2 positions off the first turn.
Yeah, because as soon as the lights went out, I saw Dom next to me, so I was wondering if I had a wheel spin. It was really confused, so that caught me off guard. And then it allowed, I don't know who was in third, but it allowed them to come through, but they played it safe because they knew I had the pace to catch back. So just played it safe.
That was very clever. Yeah, it was Barry Hill who managed to sneak his way past you as well. But then you managed to come back, overturn him, and once you got past him, you made it look easy.
It really wasn't, because I was really trying to control the pace, because I knew there was a huge pace difference between the front and the back. So I was worried about catching the traffic too soon. So I had to think about all of that. But it was a good race. I'm sorry that Dom, I think, had a jump start or something, so he just disappeared from the server.
Yeah, so that we didn't know that at the time, but he had such a good start. I did suspect it, but it's nice to have that confirmed. So, Damien, thank you for joining us. I wish you best of luck for the second race, reverse grid. How are you feeling?
Bit nervous because these cars are very fragile, so see what happens.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I'll let you go back and make any setup changes you want to make, and
Thanks,
then we'll be ready for the second race. Best of luck.
All right, thanks.
Wonderful. Perfect to speak to Damien there. Good result for him. That will, of course, mean with Dominic Charles not finishing that race, as he had a jump start, being disqualified after 5 laps, that's going to be a massive points overhaul for after race 1. There was only 14 points between them. Of course, we'll wait and see how it pans out after the second race. But currently, leading the championship is Damien Hall. And in fact, Barry Hill's going to make up a bit of ground, getting that second place. He's going to close the gap to Dominic Charles as well. So, a calamitous start for Dominic. We'll see what he can do from the back of the grid in race 2. As the drivers just load the grid. It's now a 2-minute countdown before we start. And a time for us to reflect on the first race and just have a prediction for what we think is going to happen into race 2. Now, of course, it's very hard always to predict a reverse grid race. If any of you think you know what's going to happen, do put it in the comments. Personally, Dominic Charles has proved before he can come through a grid. He's got good racecraft in him. I'm expecting some movements from him, a couple of sends here and there to try and make up some positions. But overall, this mid-pack, I'm thinking mid-pack. Rob Simmons has got to obviously learn from his mistakes. He's going to not want to replicate that race 1. It's a race 1 to forget for him. He still did respectable. He came home in 7th place. But after 2 spins, that'll be something to watch for him. Just watch his throttle control. And Derek Rudder, he had a good start in the first race. He managed to make up a lot of positions on the first lap to now be starting in 5th place for the reverse grid sprint. And with moves like that, if you manage to replicate here, Jarrett could be finding himself in a podium position without too much bother. So I reckon Rudder will be the one to look out for. And hopefully, an all-round lack of contact for all involved. This will be Chris Wiggins, Mr. Starsky in clutch. This will be his first reverse grid as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares from 3rd on the grid. But with that in mind, the lights come on, lighting up, and we're about to go racing for sprint race number 2. And lights out, away we go. Didn't look like any jump start for anyone there. In fact, a bit of a poor start at the back there for Damien Hall, perhaps just watching things as they make their way through the first turn. Ryan Hunt leading the group down to turn 2. Bit of a... look, someone running very wide at the back. Oisin Wilson running very wide, but keeping at the front now. Bit of contact there. That was between what looked like between Rob Simmons. Oh, there's a lot of contact further back. Kadeen Mohammed and Derek Rudder. Commentator's curse from Mr. Rudder, I apologise. But Kadeen Mohammed and Derek Rudder having a massive coming together. I think Rudder got turned round in the mid-pack battle. And then from there's another spin. That was Starsky in clutch. Mr. Chris Wiggins having an off. Perhaps there was a bit of contact there. And it bunny hops the curb. That is why you don't ride the curbs in these cars. Very unfortunate there for Chris Wiggins as we now start to look further to the front of the field. Amongst all of that, Ryan Hunt has managed to come out in the lead on the first lap, followed by Kevin Manning, and having a look down the inside of him was Rob Simmons, but didn't quite manage to get the move done, and now he's going to be compromised coming down into turn 2. Paul Rees coming well to the inside. Rob darts back to the outside, trying to get the better line, manages to cover nicely from Rees, and then Dominic Charles has managed to find his way into 5th. I told you this man could work miracles. He's all the way into 5th place, hoping to put that sprint race 1 behind him, having a look, manages to get the undercut well up the inside there of Paul Rees. Excellent move there from Dominic Charles, now into 4th place, got his sights set on Kevin Manning, coming down into the final section of the lap. He'll be lining up a move into turn 1, I can guarantee. We'll just stick with Dominic Charles well under the rear wing of Kevin Manning. Got the DRS wide open. DRS you can use at any point throughout this lap. Looks to the inside, as does Paul Rees. A little bit of contact there between Rees and Manning. In fact, Kevin Manning has lost 3 positions in 1 corner. He's still got the inside compared to Javon Codrington. Manages to look up the inside. A huge lunge as well on Paul Rees. So Kevin Manning managing to take back a move with a hideous dive bomb there. Well done, sir. That's what we like to see. And the 2 cars behind, Paul Rees and Javon Codrington, now squabbling amongst themselves. But while this has been going on, the likes of Damien Hall and Barry Hill have managed to catch up from behind, not managing to replicate. There's a spin there from Javon Codrington. Whether there was contact involved or he got on the grass, I'm not sure, but a huge spin from Javon Codrington. And in fact, looking further back, Derek Rudder has ended up in the wall. I think he got on the grass, unfortunately for Derek, and is now struggling to get going again. He's just managed to somehow beach his car. Oh, that's very unfortunate for Derek. Javon Codrington managing to get himself going, but jumping back up, Paul Rees and Damien Hall side by side, pushing him to the outside of the track and having a huge lunge, massive amounts of contact between Kevin Manning and Paul Rees. That was a hideous move from Mr. Rees there. Shame on the huge lunge down the inside, braked way too late. And there's a spin as well from Barry Hill. Oh, it's all going on. Barry Hill having a huge spin on the exit of the chicane, managing to drop back down into 9th place after he had a better start to the race this time. This is all happening. We've got Oisin Wilson, who's managed to make his way past Paul Rees. Wilson coming back up through the grid as we just stick with them. There are 3 cars close on track. Just want to look now to defend that position again from Paul Rees. Slightly further back, you've got Damien Hall and Kevin Manning. Kevin Manning had a just not great start to the race so far. Damien Hall now starting to pull away. Of course, the finished in first place did Damien in the previous race, and now just hoping to pick drivers off one by one. But as we look further up the grid to the top 3, Dominic Charles has just managed to get past Rob Simmons. That was a very opportunistic move from Dominic Charles. He unfortunately due to a DNF, didn't finish the last race, so finished at the joined from the back of the grid. Oh, and who was that? Ryan Hunt, the leader, having a massive off halfway down the straight. Oh, calamitous for Ryan Hunt. Has to just check the brakes coming back onto the track, joining right on the apex. Well done. And with that, that means Dominic Charles inherits the lead here on lap 6 of sprint race number 2 for round 4 of the CSM Virtual Bushy Park Clubman Series. So Dominic Charles in the lead, followed by Rob Simmons. Rob will just want to check his throttle control. I can guarantee that. He had 2 offs in the first race. And looking further back, Damien Hall and Paul Rees side by side yet again. This has been a common theme for this race. You can't separate these two. Now, just come through the chicane, the tightest corner on the track now. Nice and easy on the throttle, avoid the curb. Damien Hall right under the rear wing of Paul Rees. Rees manages to just keep himself calm and collected amongst all that carnage going on. Managed to just keep hold of 4th. Nope, as I say that, Paul Rees, too much on the power. Darts it into the grass, manages to keep it out the wall, but now he's got Kevin Manning going around the outside. Whoa, nearly wheel-to-wheel contact there, and Kevin Manning manages to just take to the grass and has lost another 2 positions. This is all happening. And with that, Barry Hill is back up into 6th place. This is chopping and changing like no tomorrow. This is outstanding racing. Chucked in with a couple of mistakes from the drivers really does keep things entertaining. So Barry Hill in 6th, Paul Rees in 5th. The closest battle on track right now. Small lock up there from Rees. Barry Hill had a look to the inside, but just kept it too narrow. Clip of the curb has meant that Rees is able to escape, and just perhaps a sniff of blood for Kevin Manning as there's a spin there. Dominic Charles has spun the leader of this race. Has had a big spin coming onto the back straight. He was far enough ahead of Rob Simmons that contact won't have been involved. It would have purely just been Dominic Charles making his way through. And we're going to jump to the battle for the lead. Rob Simmons defending down into turn 2 from Kadeem Mohammed. Mohammed trying to stick it around the outside. He'll have the inside for the chicane. Rob Simmons just managing to hold them off. Good defending there from Rob. Stout defending. But now he's just got to watch himself. This is where Rob's made a few mistakes already, getting on the power too much. Oh, bits of contact. Kadeem Mohammed going into the back of Rob Simmons. Perhaps there was just a touch of oversteer. Threw him into the side of Rob Simmons. Kadeem Mohammed dropping down into 3rd place. This has meant that Damien Hall finds himself in 2nd, and he's just right again under the rear wing of Rob Simmons for 1st place. The battle as we come down now onto lap 9. Going to come down into turn 1. Damien Hall just not going for the move this time. Rob Simmons, small lock up. So they get on the power now. Right in the slipstream is Damien Hall. Coming down into turn 2. In the background, I just witnessed Kadeem Mohammed having a big spin. But now a small little bit of a nudge there from Damien Hall in the back of Rob Simmons. But Rob did seem to have a slide on already. And with that, Damien Hall lunges his way into first place. Good move there from Hall as he retakes the lead. He's already won one of these races. He's well on the way now to winning a second, as we are just over halfway through this second sprint race, and Damien Hall already pulling away from Rob Simmons. But with how much these drivers are pushing, every driver up and down the grid, trying their absolute hardest, you can tell, to try and gain as many positions as possible. I won't be surprised if we see a couple of more mistakes being made throughout the field. And with that, the field itself is quite spread, but Dominic Charles is catching up on Kevin Manning as they just crossed the line to start their lap 10. Kevin Manning on the inside, just managing to hold off Dominic Charles, but Dominic had a wider line, can get the run on him. He's keeping it to the inside, he's right under the rear wing, pulls to the inside. Manning deciding not to defend, taking the wide line. Charles lock up and gets the move done. Good move there from Charles. After he had that unassisted spin earlier, he's now starting to come up through the field. Good move executed there on Kevin Manning for 5th place. Oh, and I can breathe. And I think you could breathe at home. That was the first. That was an excellent start. I told you, these reverse grid sprint races always throw up drama, and God, we love it. So, I take a small opportunity as we are in the the last third of this race. In the lead is Damien Hall. Just managed to pull out a 2.5 second gap from Rob Simmons. It's a good fight between them not long ago. Then Paul Rees, followed by Barry Hill. A gap slowly coming down between Barry Hill and Paul Rees. Rees done very well to maintain a good starting position, currently fighting for the last podium spot. Dominic Charles, I'm sure, will have something to say. He'll try and get in on the act. Bottom half of the grid, well, of course, we've got Kevin Manning in 6th, followed by Kadeen Mohammed in 7th, Oisin Wilson in 8th, Ryan Hunt in 9th, Mr. Starsky in clutch, of course, Chris Wiggins in 10th, and Javon Codrington in 11th, and Derek Rudder in 12th after having been punted off. I've just witnessed Derek Rudder having a reasonably sized off coming onto the pit straight. As we are on lap 12, very unfortunate for Derek Rudder. I believe I've cursed that man for life. I do apologise. But we're going to jump to the battle for the last remaining podium spot. 0.3 of a second between Paul Rees and Barry Hill. Excuse me, as we are approaching the last of today's racing action, lap 12 of 15. So, coming onto the back straight, Barry Hill, DRS, wide open as Crofty would say, coming down towards a hard braking zone, got to avoid those curbs. Slightly better line through there than Paul Rees, not managing to make too much time, but just making it easier to set up the next couple of corners. Again, having a look to the inside, Rees thinks of defending, goes well to the outside, slightly narrower line carried through by Barry Hill, managing to make the apex a little bit sweeter. And now a little bit closer, 0.2 of a second. Rees defends, Hill runs to the outside. Just tries to get a little bit of a switchback. He's definitely got the pace, as Barry Hill, but has he got enough to overturn Paul Rees and cement another podium position? Of course, Barry Hill finished 2nd in the first race. We'll see how he gets on. Right, there's no separating these cars as they just come round. Again, DRS open. Hill just losing a little bit of ground there to Paul Rees. Perhaps Rees, I think, is better in the second half of this circuit. If anything, Barry Hill might be trying a little bit too hard, missing the odd apex here and there. Just clipping the grass as he comes onto the pit straight. 2 laps left of this race. Oh, but Paul Rees running very wide. Is this going to be the opportunity Barry Hill needs to just throw it down the inside? Is that a back marker making their way? Making themselves scarce and getting out the way. And Barry Hill still under the rear wing of the car of Paul Rees. In fact, there's also a big battle going on for 6th place. I saw cars 3 abreast. Kevin Manning, Kadeen Mohammed and Oisin Wilson, side by side they come into the chicane, turns 3 and 4. Oh, and that was Kadeen Mohammed perhaps being slightly nudged there from Oisin Wilson. Mohammed ending up off in the grass, and there's another off. Barry Hill has found himself been spun round. Oh dear Lord! So Barry Hill has found himself in the dirt. Dominic Charles, he's caught up amongst all that's going on. He's in 4th. He's going to the outside on the last lap, the final podium position. Paul Rees still defending. He hasn't. Dominic Charles just misjudges it. Goes into the back of Paul Rees. Perhaps he got such a superb exit on Paul that he just drove into the back of him, turned him round. Oh, Paul, that's very unfortunate. Paul Rees did so well fighting for that last podium spot, but he's just had it torn away from him. And as we say that, Damien Hall is about to cross the line to win race 2 of round 4 here at CSM Virtual Bushy Park Clubman Series. Damien Hall did everything he had to do. He stayed relatively out of trouble and done very well to win both races here today. Rob Simmons comes over the line in 2nd. A good result for Rob there. Didn't replicate his antics in the first race. Dominic Charles finishes 3rd. We'll find out. There may be some stewards' inquiries after the race as to whether he should be still in 3rd. Barry Hill in 4th. But Paul Rees, commiserations to Paul Rees. He should have, I think that 3rd was his in the bag. Coming home in 6th, Kevin Manning. 7th, Oisin Wilson. Coming in only just. Ryan Hunt managing to hold off Kadeen Mohammed by 2/10 as they cross the line. 10th comes Chris Wiggins, Mr. Starsky in clutch. And then Javon Codrington and Derek Rudder. Derek had a very unfortunate race, a couple of spins, a couple of incidents involving other cars, and Javon Codrington also had a big off towards the start of the race. And that was very unfortunate for him. And so what started with a absolutely fierce display of driving from everyone, all involved, at the start of the race, the first 8 laps, small break in the middle, and they delivered in the final part of the race, as we see Mr. Damien Hall. He's parked himself on the bridge, on the prize bridge, and that was a very, very good display from Damien Hall to come all the way from the back of the grid, keep himself relatively out of trouble, and come home with double honours this time around for round 4. And I can breathe again. That was an absolutely mental finish to the race. And don't go anywhere. We're going to, in a second, we're going to jump across to the drivers' debriefing room. Hopefully we'll be able to gather some very quick post-race thoughts of all of the drivers involved there. So bear with us while we jump across to that room, and we will bring you some thoughts. Apologies if you hear any unchoice words to begin with. They are racing drivers. We'll allow that. But yes, bear with us and we'll get their thoughts in a second.
Cool.
Well done, drivers. Well done to some more than others. A very, very good second race there. I mean, it was a good first race as well, but that second race really highlighted some of the racecraft that we have on display here at CSM, and also some of the banditry as well. But we'll talk about that later. I'll kick off again with Damien Hall. The winner ended up winning both of these sprint races. Damien, you managed to replicate what you did in the first race.
Yeah, thankful for that. I made the decision to lag on my start to avoid any confusion, and it worked out for me.
Yeah, I witnessed that, just deciding to a tactical internet fault to drop back and keep out of trouble, but then expertly made your way through the field.
Yeah, thanks. It was very difficult. There were a lot of what you will call argy-bargy going on. I realized that when I caught up, I actually don't drive with the instruments on, so I actually didn't know my position. So I was just driving based on visual. So when I caught the first 3, I actually didn't know it was the first 3. So I was kind of relieved after I was on my last lap. I saw a leader on last lap, and I was like, oh, hey, well, I'm that. So, yeah. But I think Dominic had damage. So I think that's how he didn't have, because I was looking forward to a battle with him. But I think he had damage. So
Yeah,
That was it.
Dominic had a few incidents themselves, and we'll get to him in a second. But yeah, for yourself, Damien, there was a good points haul, and you will have overturned Mr. Charles amongst all of that. So well done. You are now the leader of this championship.
Thank you very much.
And with that, we'll go to the second place position in that race, Mr. Rob Simmons.
Hey.
Hey, it was a good. After the first race, you had a couple of spins, couple of offs, but then you seemed to remedy that for the second race.
Yeah, bad tire pressures for sure. I don't know why I didn't change them, but I kind of tires are overheating within mid race or so. But with this race, I generally prefer the reverse grid anyways. And as I said like before, once by lap 7 and I'm in a comfortable position, I will maintain that position. But the funny point of that race was seeing Dominic spin in front of me, and I was like, good first. And then looking in the mirror, seeing Damien, it was like, geez, that is so unfair. So I knew what was coming. Yeah.
It was fairly unrelenting. We were watching that on stream when that happened, and to be swapped out instantly for another driver was been very frustrating.
Yeah, these cars aren't easy to drive, so I look forward to the next round for sure.
Yeah, no, that was for all to see. But well done for a good, strong performance there in the second race.
Thanks.
And so to round off the podium for the second race was Mr. Dominic Charles. Dominic, we'll quickly touch on the first race. Was it a jump start for you originally?
Hi. Well, I don't know actually, because the lights went off on my end, and then I left, and I was like, "Wait, why isn't anyone else going?" And then we had another driver in the chat here who had the opposite problem. His lights stayed on, so he didn't get to leave until everyone else did. So I don't know what's going on there, but I guess we'll figure that out.
That's one to move on for next time. But then
Yeah.
race 2, a lot
race
better
2,
for you.
Yeah, I expected carnage, which which we got, but on the first lap, I tried to avoid everyone on the outside, and someone came across and took out my front wing. But that was why I ended up spinning later on, because honestly, the understeer was insane. And well, where there's understeer, if you get on the throttle too early, there's oversteer. But later on in the race, I ended up making contact with Reese, I believe. But I still, that was kind of weird, because I ran up on him, and it's almost like he was on the brakes at the corner exit. But I guess that'll be reviewed, so.
Yeah, we managed to catch that on stream. It might have been some net code involved or anything like that, but we'll leave that up to men greater than I to decide what happens there. But it was a good comeback nonetheless after the mid-race spin.
Thank you.
So well done. We'll see where you end up in the points as well. And then Barry Hill, we got Barry in here.
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect, Barry. A good all-round session for you. A good podium, second place in the first race. Very unfortunate in towards the latter ends of that race, but overall, are you happy?
Yeah, it was a good evening. The first race was really good actually. I actually forgot to change on to mediums for the first race after qualifying, so I was out there on softs, and it was so slidey. Everything was overheating. Second race was good. I got barged out in the first couple of corners, but then just trying to keep things together, and then not make too many mistakes, because fighting through from the back is pretty much harder than being up front. So yeah, just doing that pretty much.
Well, it was expertly done, so I commend you for that, and managing to catch up on Dominic as well with that first race. So it's going to be very close going into the next round, points-wise. How are you feeling for the rest of the championship?
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised this championship. I've been doing a lot of P2s and 3s. I wasn't expecting it. So yeah, just keep pushing and see where you end up.
Perfect. Well, I wish you the best of luck in the next round.
Thank you.
And lastly, do we have Paul Reese in here? Has he managed to find his way in? I don't believe so. I was just going to get his opinion on the escapades at the end, but unfortunately not. So we might endeavour to bring you that at the start of the next round. But with that, we are going to leave it there. Thank you all for watching us. I hope you've enjoyed the racing as much as myself and the competitors have. It certainly proved eventful in the reverse sprint. We all knew that was going to happen. So if you're new here and you liked what you saw, like the stream, subscribe to us, and I'll say a big thank you to Bushy Park for sponsoring us as always. And we will catch you next time, and hopefully it will be just as drama-filled as this one. So catch us soon. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.